Florence, 1512. They drag Niccolo Machiavelli from his bed at dawn, torture him, break his body, strip away his power, his position, his pride. Then they exile him to a farm outside the city, expecting him to disappear into irrelevance. Most broken men would have begged for mercy. Most would have spent their exile in self-pity, replaying their mistakes, wondering where it all went wrong. But Machiavelli did something different, something dangerous. He studied them, the ones who destroyed him. He dissected their methods, analyzed their psychology, reverse-engineered their power. And from that cold analysis, he wrote the most feared book in human history, The Prince. Not a book about healing, not a guide to moving on, a manual for understanding power, so completely that no one could ever break you again. You see, most people think power is about what you have. Machiavelli discovered it's about what you understand, about seeing the game that others are blind to, about recognizing the patterns that repeat in every betrayal, every manipulation, every moment when someone tries to make you small. They try to destroy him by taking everything away. Instead, they gave him the greatest gift possible, the motivation to decode the system that crushed him. And now, 500 years later, that system is still running. The same psychological games, the same human weaknesses, the same predictable moves disguised as random chaos. The difference is, now you have a manual. This isn't about becoming a better version of who you were. This is about understanding the architecture of power so deeply that you become someone entirely different. Someone who sees a trap before stepping in it. Someone who recognizes a game before others even know they're playing. If you're ready to learn what they don't want you to know, if you're ready to study power instead of nursing pain, comment this right now. I study power, not pain. Because what you're about to discover isn't just psychology. It's the operating system that runs beneath every human interaction. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Let's begin with the first law Machiavelli discovered in that cold exile, why chaos always wins, and how to beat it at its own game. Here's what Machiavelli discovered in that exile. Chaos isn't random. It has patterns, and patterns can be beaten. He called it fortuna, not luck, a hostile force that seeks to destroy everything you build. Every betrayal, every collapsed plan, every moment when everything fell apart. That's fortuna at work. Most people think chaos is unpredictable. That's why they lose. Machiavelli saw deeper. Fortuna is like a raging river. When it floods, everything gets swept away. But here's the key. The flood was predictable. Fortuna only destroys those who weren't prepared. He wrote that fortuna controls half of your actions. Half. But the other half belongs to you. That's where your virtue lives, not Sunday school virtue. But virtue is your capacity to impose on a hostile world, to see patterns, build defenses, and strike when chaos shows weakness. Think about your biggest disasters. They followed patterns you could have seen coming. The friend who betrayed you sent signals for months. The relationship that imploded showed cracks you ignored. The opportunity that vanished had warning signs you chose not to read. Fortuna respects audacity. Machiavelli wrote that chaos favors the young because they're fiercer. It's not about age. It's about aggression, about refusing to play defense when the world attacks. The weak build walls and pray. The powerful build dams and redirect the river. So right now, while life is calm, what are you building? What defenses are you preparing? Because fortuna is watching, testing, waiting for you to get comfortable. If you're ready to stop hoping for safety and start engineering control, comment this. I don't pray to survive the storm. I become the storm. Because that brings us to why most people are easier to fool than you think, and how to use that blindness as your weapon. That blindness isn't a bug in human psychology. It's a feature, and Machiavelli weaponized it. He discovered something that changes everything. Men judge more by their eyes than by their hands. Translation: what people see matters more than what actually is. Most people never get close enough to touch the truth. They judge from a distance, making decisions based on surface impressions. This is your greatest advantage. Machiavelli identified 5 sacred appearances you must master. Seem merciful, faithful, humane, upright, and religious. Notice he said seem not be, because here's the brutal reality. If you actually are all those things all the time, you'll be destroyed by people who aren't. Think about the most powerful people you know. They project strength even when they're vulnerable. They appear calm even when they're calculating. They seem generous even when they're strategic. That's not hypocrisy. That's engineering perception. The masses, what Machiavelli called the vulgar, are easy to fool because they want to believe the surface. They don't have time or energy to investigate deeper. They see confidence and assume competence. They see religious devotion and assume moral authority. They see your composed exterior and never suspect the strategic mind operating beneath. But here's the key. You must be able to switch. Appear merciful while keeping the capacity for ruthlessness. Project faithfulness while staying strategically flexible. Look religious while thinking like a tactician. Your reputation becomes your most powerful weapon. People react to who they think you are before they ever discover who you actually are. And by the time they figure out, you've already achieved your objective. Poke holes in your enemy's reputation, and you will destroy them. Bring up things that are inconsistent with their reputation, and you will have room. Like popping a balloon, it'll just collapse. Control the perception. Control the outcome. If you're ready to engineer how others see you instead of hoping they understand you, comment this. They see what I allow. They believe what I design. Because next, we explore the deadliest skill of all, becoming the predator that thinks and the thinker that kills. That combination, thinking predator, killing thinker, is what Machiavelli called the secret of ultimate power. You need two natures, not one. 2. He wrote that there are 2 ways of fighting. The one by law, the other by force. The first method is that of men, the second of beasts. But here's what most people miss. You can't survive with just one method. The world is too dangerous. People are too unpredictable. So you become both man and beast. But not just any beast, the lion and the fox. The lion represents pure, overwhelming force. When someone crosses a line you've drawn, when they test your boundaries, when they mistake your strategic patience for weakness, that's when you unleash the lion. Swift, decisive, unmistakable. The lion doesn't negotiate. It dominates. But the lion has a fatal weakness. It's blind to traps. Pure force can't see the snare before it snaps shut. That's where the fox comes in. The fox sees a trap before stepping into it. It reads the room, recognizes the patterns, anticipates a betrayal before it happens. The fox negotiates when negotiations serve its purpose, and lies when truth becomes a liability. But the fox has its own weakness. It can't fight the wolf in open combat. See the problem? Lions die in snares. Foxes die in direct confrontation. But a creature that can switch between both natures, that's unstoppable. Most people are trapped in single strategy thinking. They're either always aggressive or always diplomatic, always trusting or always suspicious. That predictability is what gets them killed. You're different now. You read the situation first, then deploy the appropriate nature. When the threat is open, you become the lion. When the threat is hidden, you become the fox. If you're ready to stop being predictable, if you're ready to become the predator that adapts, comment this. I am the lion that strikes and the fox that vanishes. Because that brings us to the mathematics of elimination, how to remove obstacles without creating enemies. That mathematics is brutal but precise, and Machiavelli perfected it through one of history's most calculated executions. Cesare Borgia needed to pacify a lawless region, so he appointed a vicious lieutenant, Ramiro de Orco, and gave him unlimited authority. De Orco crushed a rebellion through pure terror. Mission accomplished. But then the people began to hate Borgia for the cruelty. So Borgia made his masterpiece move. He had Orco seized, cut in half, and displayed in the public square. One stroke. Multiple objectives achieved. The people got their revenge. Borgia looked like he cared about justice. And everyone learned what happened to those who went too far. This is what Machiavelli called well-used cruelty, swift, decisive, finite, then converted to benefit. Most people do the opposite. They make half measures. They hint at consequences, but don't follow through. They give second chances to people who've already shown their true nature. That's badly used cruelty, hesitant, repeated, growing over time. It creates more enemies than it eliminates. Here's the principle. When you cut someone out of your life, you cut completely. No gradual withdrawal. No mixed signals. No leaving doors open for maybe later. You make the cut so clean and so final that everyone watching understands the standard. The goal isn't to be cruel. It's to be clear. One decisive action teaches 100 lessons. One public example prevents 1,000 future tests. Because when people see you'll actually follow through, they stop testing your boundaries. If you're ready to stop making threats you won't keep, if you're ready to make decisions that stick, comment this. I strike once. The lesson lasts forever. Because next, we decode the algorithm that runs every human interaction you'll ever have. That algorithm is simpler than you think, and darker than most people want to admit. Machiavelli decoded the human program in one devastating observation. Men are ungrateful, fickle, liars, and deceivers. They're greedy for cash, and they melt away in the face of danger. Not some men, not most men. Men, as in the fundamental code that runs human behavior. This isn't cynicism. This is pattern recognition. Watch any betrayal, any broken promise, any moment when someone chooses their comfort over your trust. You'll see the same program running, self-interest over everything else. Here's why this matters. If you build relationships assuming people are good, you're building on quicksand. But if you design systems that work with human selfishness instead of against it, you become unshakable. Fear beats love because fear speaks to self-preservation, the deepest layer of human programming. People will break promises when it benefits them, but they won't risk consequences that genuinely threaten them. That's why gratitude has an expiration date. That's why loyalty is conditional. That's why the friend who borrowed money starts avoiding you, and the person you helped in crisis suddenly forgets your name. It's not personal. It's just the algorithm. So you stop expecting humans to transcend their nature. Instead, you work with it. You create mutual benefit instead of one-sided favors. You inspire respect through strength instead of affection through kindness. You build relationships where abandoning you costs more than staying loyal. If you're ready to see people as they are instead of as you wish they were, comment this. I don't hate their nature. I exploit it. Because next, we turn every painful experience into tactical intelligence. That transformation begins with a single shift. Stop seeing pain as punishment and start treating it as data. Every betrayal is a masterclass in human nature. Every disappointment reveals a gap in your defenses. Every moment when someone shows you who they really are, that's intelligence worth more than gold. Machiavelli himself learned this in the most brutal way possible. Torture and exile didn't break him because he treated his destruction as a laboratory. He studied the men who crushed him, analyzed their methods, decoded their psychology, and from that pain he extracted the patterns that built his immortal power. Here's your protocol. When someone hurts you, don't just feel it, dissect it. What weakness did they exploit? What blind spot let them get close? What pattern of behavior did you ignore because you want to believe their words instead of watching their actions? That person who ghosted you after you helped them, they just taught you that investment without reciprocity creates contempt, not gratitude. The friend who sided with your enemies, they showed you that loyalty without strength is worthless. The opportunity that vanished because you hesitated. Pure data on the cost of strategic indecision. Each lesson becomes part of your early warning system. You start recognizing the same moves played by different people, the manipulation attempts, the boundary tests, the subtle signs that someone is calculating how to use you. This isn't paranoia. This is pattern recognition sharpened by experience. Smart people learn from their mistakes. Strategic people learn from their enemies' successes. If you're ready to turn your scars into strategic advantages, comment this. Every betrayal is a lesson. Every lesson is power. Because next, we build a fortress that makes you psychologically untouchable. That fortress isn't built with walls. It's built with standards, and those standards become your greatest weapon. Here's what most people get wrong. They think protecting their mind means hiding from the world. That's not protection. That's isolation. Real protection means building access controls so sophisticated that only quality people can reach your inner circle. Think of your mind as sovereign territory. Not everyone gets a visa. The protocol is simple but ruthless. Every person, Every conversation, every invitation gets filtered through one question. Does this strengthen me or scatter me? If someone brings chaos, inconsistency, or emotional confusion to your world, they're disqualified, not with anger, not with explanation, with distance. This creates something Machiavelli would have called the mirror effect. Your emotional clarity becomes a mirror that reflects people's true nature back at them. The manipulative see their own games. The toxic feel their own poison. The weak recognize their own desperation. Most can't stand their own reflection, so they'll call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to guilt you back into being their emotional servant. Let them. That's just the system working. You've raised the price of access to your world, and they can't afford it. The beautiful part? Quality people respect boundaries. They appreciate standards. They understand that someone who protects their peace is someone worth knowing. Meanwhile, the ones who fight your boundaries tell you everything you need to know about their intentions. If you're ready to treat your attention like the valuable resource it is, comment this. My mind is sovereign territory. Trespasses are eliminated, because next, we explore how to command respect without saying a word. That respect doesn't come from words. It comes from energy, and energy, once you understand it, becomes your most powerful weapon. Walk into any room, and you'll feel it immediately. Some people change the atmosphere just by existing. Conversations adjust. Postures shift. The social dynamics reorganize around their presence. That's not accident. That's gravity. Machiavelli understood this. He wrote that powerful rulers must appear strong even when they are not, because perception shapes reality faster than facts do. But here's the secret. You don't create this through performance. You create it through scarcity. Most people are desperate to be seen, heard, validated. They oversell themselves, overexplain their positions, overcompensate for insecurity. That desperation leaks out as weakness, and everyone can smell it. You do the opposite. You become strategically unavailable. Your attention becomes currency because you don't spend it carelessly. Your words carry weight because you don't waste them on pointless arguments. Your presence matters because it's not guaranteed. When you stop chasing approval, something shifts. People start wondering what you know that they don't. They start questioning why you're so calm while they're stressed. They start noticing that you never seem to need anything from anyone. That's when you become dangerous, not because you attack, but because you don't react. Your silence forces them to fill the void, usually by revealing more than they intended. This is psychological leverage. While they're trying to figure you out, you're already 3 moves ahead. If you're ready to stop performing and start commanding, comment this. I don't enter rooms. I transform them. Because next, we synthesize everything into the complete system that makes you untouchable. That transformation isn't gradual. It's architectural. You're not becoming a better version of who you were. You're becoming someone entirely different. Here's what you've built. A mind that sees fortuna patterns before they strike. A presence that controls perception before truth becomes relevant. Dual natures that adapt faster than others can predict. Surgical precision that eliminates problems without creating enemies. Intelligent systems that turn pain into power. Fortress protocols that make you psychologically untouchable. And gravity that commands respect without demanding it. This isn't self-improvement. This is strategic reconstruction. Machiavelli wrote that he who controls his mind controls the world. But control isn't suppression. It's architecture. It's building a system so sophisticated that external chaos can't penetrate your inner calm. So calculated that others' emotions can't destabilize your decisions. So complete that you operate from choice, not reaction. When this system integrates, people notice without understanding why. They treat you differently. They hesitate before challenging you. They respect boundaries they didn't even know you'd set. Because you've stopped being someone things happen to. You become someone who makes things happen. You don't argue with reality anymore. You engineer it. You don't hope for respect. You command it. You don't wait for opportunities. You create them. That's the final evolution, from victim of circumstances to architect of outcomes. If this transformation has already begun in you, if you recognize the shift happening, comment this. I am no longer becoming. I am. The world adjusts accordingly. The prince lives within you now. Act accordingly. You now possess what took Machiavelli a lifetime of suffering to discover. The question is, will you use it? If this transformed how you see power, hit that like button. You've joined the ranks of those who understand the game, while others remain blind to it. Subscribe for more decoded wisdom from history's most dangerous minds. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. But knowledge with action, that's revolution. The weak will keep scrolling. The future rulers will subscribe. Which are yo.